Hey everyone, my name is Neil Karski, and I'm the CEO of Patient Engine, a seven-figure digital marketing, lead conversion, and coaching agency for high-ticket aesthetics providers. And I would like to personally welcome you to the Aesthetics Millionaires Show, where we sit down with industry entrepreneurs to talk about their personal journeys and discuss proven growth strategies. My genuine hope is that through this podcast, we can create more success stories in this industry and help more business owners scale past their competition. Enjoy the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another amazing episode of Aesthetics Millionaires Show on YouTube and Spotify. I'm joined today by Vanessa Navarro. She's the owner and CEO of NAVA Media House, an amazing agency specializing specifically in content, but lots of other things, and we'll hear more from her today as it relates to the high-ticket aesthetics industry. Thanks so much for joining us, Vanessa. I appreciate it.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So excited.
Vanessa, how did you get into the industry? Tell us a little bit more about your background so we can connect the dots.
So I actually got into the industry. I started out being an influencer. Now I have been doing business development and marketing for a very long time previous in the real estate uh, kind of side of the business. But then I was also building kind of my influencer status and whatnot in the DMV. And I got connected with a couple of providers and specifically Heather's Aid. And one day we started working, collaborating together, and I looked at her and I was like, I could really help you, especially because she was new to Baltimore, to Maryland. And I was like, would you possibly let me take over your socials, whether it be Adora or your personal injector account? And again, I was her influencer. She saw kind of, what I was bringing into her business. And so we started collaborating that way. And then she gave me the green light to finally, take over her socials after we had built that relationship. And that's kind of how we started and how I started specifically in the aesthetics industry. But like I said, because of my influencer background, I was kind of already in that like beauty and wellness and all of that. But in aesthetics, it kind of started out with Heather's Aid.
So, by being an influencer, you were able to understand the type of content that you put out as an influencer that resonated with people and that got traction, right?
Correct. Yes. So I kind of, have seen things or can see things from all sides. I know, like you said, because of being an influencer, I know what people want to see. I know what they're interested in because I have already done that for myself. I've made those, the videos or the stories or the posts, and I can see that engagement and what really gravitates towards specific audience, specifically like females who want to get, beauty treatments done and whatnot.
So let's walk through like those early days and development, like working with Heather. What did you learn about like the best practices for our industry? What did you learn, like you said, about the audience that you were targeting as well? And how were you able to, what kind of value were you able to provide for Heather and similarly for a lot of your other clients now? And I know that was, when was that?
Ooh, that was uh 6 years ago.
6 years ago. Okay. And obviously, we want to talk about some of the evolution of things. And I mean, 6 years ago, I just did a presentation last night. The industry has tripled since then.
Oh my God. It was not,
Triple.
yes.
Yeah.
And that's why I was able, honestly, to get Heather to kind of like, you know, where she is now. Obviously, there's a lot of other people who are involved in that, including Heather, because she's a hard worker. But it wasn't as uh, overly saturated as it is now. 6 years ago, you were still kind of just starting, I feel like that's when you just started to see people, you know, kind of get more into the aesthetic industry, um, especially after COVID, because I think that's what 2020 was like during COVID-ish times. Yeah, it was still
Hmm.
like COVID times. So after that, that's when you started seeing people kind of pop up and opening more of their aesthetic practices.
Yeah. So let's back then, like you said, it was there were certain strategies that you deployed for Heather that really worked. So let's kind of walk through that Heather story and how the impact you had for her business, and then let's transition into some of the best practices or the best strategies and tactics that you deploy right now for your clients, given the fact that we live in a completely different world.
Yeah. So back then, what I did is the same thing that technically would still do now, which is I reviewed all of her socials. I reviewed kind of who her audience is, who her followers are, obviously her location, how easily accessible it is to people, if you can find it. You have to think about all of these things because all of these things are important. You also, I had to get to know Heather, who she was, her personality, and like I said, based on the relationship that I had built with her, that's where we kind of, after the fact, sat down and said, "Hey, let's come up with a plan. What is your goal? What do you want out of this? Like, who do you want to be? Do you just want to be a provider who has their practice and just has clients coming in? Do you still, you want to be an injector and you're just happy where you are? You just want to build your book, or do you want to be this big injector who is like known all over the US or the world or whatever the case may be?" So we sat down and talked about that. We figured that out, what it is that she wanted. Then we came up with, what kind of, what her personality is or what she wanted that to be. Because at that time, that's kind of when you started seeing, like, obviously, Erica Berry, or Injector Bunny, as most people know. She's a very big provider. And in the space, the reality TV space, it's like you almost have to be this like persona. You have to show up as, especially if you want to be big like that, you have to show up as like this kind of, I wouldn't say like fake person, but just a different being, or alter ego is what I would call it. So we kind of talked about that with Heather. I'm like, okay, you're from New York or Jersey. What are your colors? Like, we want to do the black and the gold to really emphasize, like, that's who you are, like, kind of like a badass injector. And so we started building that brand. If you go, you can still go back to her Instagram or her socials on Injector Heather's Aid. If you scroll all the way back, most of her posts were before and afters, and they were very light and airy and whatnot. And that's really not Heather. So we really honed in on like who she is and how she wanted to show up. So that was step one. And then again, we started building that from there. So how we showed up, like the types of posts, the types of content, we started building from there. Obviously, the number one thing, no matter what, in this space is showcasing your work. And I will say that a million and one times. Sometimes I see that some injectors are too concerned with going viral and do a lot of dancing posts or like TikTok trends or whatnot, when the reality is that this is still a medical space and these are medical treatments and you still need to showcase your work. So that even to this day, we are still heavily focused on showcasing the work because at the end of the day, if people are going to be deciding between you and somebody else, they're going to want to see your work. Um, so that's number one, always focusing on the work. I don't know if you had something to say. No.
No, keep going. This is great.
Okay. So focusing on the work again, the branding, the colors, the black, the gold, all of that stuff, the fonts, and like I said, we were starting to build on her personality. So showcasing that, whether it be on educational reels, whether it be on, we showed a lot of behind the scenes. She did a lot of hard work with, we worked with influencers as well. Like I'm still technically an influencer for Adore Aesthetics. Um, and for Heather's Aid. So I still am bringing people in to this day as an influencer. So she still works with influencers. And we are very selective about the influencers that we pick. It has to make sense for the provider and for the practice. That's another very important thing is selecting the right type of influencers if you are going to go that route, which we can get into later. Um, so before and afters, showcasing her personality. Um, and that's, like I said, that's kind of how we started. I'm trying to think of, yeah, I think that's, yeah. My brain is like a million miles per hour and I'm like trying to gather all my thoughts.
Hi. So it's so interesting. So just to recap a little bit, just having like a unique style, unique brand, unique voice to differentiate yourself because there's even then there was so much content out there. I mean, I think obviously the volume is extremely bigger now than it was 5 years ago. But I do think that I talk a lot about brand as well because everything is commoditized these days and people, it's becoming easier for people to kind of like duplicate ideas and throw shit at the wall and see if it sticks kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So I like that you kind of said, hey, like we sat down, we try to focus on what makes Heather, and I'm sure a, a lot of your area client, what makes him unique, what makes him different, why should people care about what they have to say and put out there? Um, what's the mood, the voice, the tone going to be? Just really, I mean, that's brand strategy. Really, that's what it
Yeah.
comes down to.
And you have to focus on that. Every single one of my clients that I work with, none of the content that I'm, putting out for any of them are the same because none of them are the same. You have to find what is unique to that person. And at the end of the day, you have to you're representing them and you have to show up as them. You know what I mean? So like anytime we are posting things for Heather, it's Heather's Aid, we are acting as her. So like who she truly is and like what that strategy was that we discussed and talked about. And obviously, that strategy and how she shows up has shifted and changed over the last 5 years. Because at first, when I had first started working with Heather, and she's talked about this, she had a small space. And we were all there, literally one room. We were all in one room in a shared space. And that's how she started. Once we started kind of building her presence in the DMV, then she opened up her space. I think when was that? 2024, I believe, is when she opened up her first location in Clarksville. Um, and uh, you know, sh- within the next 5 years, that has shifted from just wanting to have patients in her seat to now becoming an educator. So again, we have evolved with what we're posting. We have shifted it to more for it to be more towards injectors because, like I said, now she's more of an educator than just injecting. She does both, obviously, but now she's more of an educator. So you have to kind of be able to shift, and that's why it's important to always talk to your clients, check in with them once a month, see what's working, what's not working. If is there anything that they want to change? Is there anything new that's coming up? You always want to stay in touch with your clients and make sure that you are both on the same page. And most of the clients that I've worked with for many years. These are long-term relationships, but that's because we're very hands-on and we almost over communicate. They feel like we are really truly part of their team and of their family, and we have their back. So again, you have to keep that communication going and really, really understand them.
Since there's a lot of injectors out there and a lot of med spa owners out there, I know it's good and it's bad. It's good because you want people like you and I get an access to a bigger pool of clients. It's bad because potentially there's this saturation, right? And saturation sometimes lower standards, and and it creates this metal of information where the human brain cannot even barely handle so much that we're exposed to these days. So in today's crowded world, like how do you where people have access to AI and have all access to all these different things, how do you come up with strategies for content for the injectors that you work with and some of those other similar types of businesses that helps them to get better results, or that helps them, I guess, to be seen. It's and we know that content nowadays, it's not just about views, it's about the right views, right? I know that this podcast is like top 10. It's like a top 1,000 for marketing, but like top 10 for health and wellness and aesthetics, which to me means, okay, that we're getting to the right people.
Hmm.
I don't need tens of thousands of views. I just want to make sure we are targeting the right audience. So how do you go about, coming up with strategies with your clients that are unique, that get them the right views, that help them, really create an impact in their businesses?
So I will tell you a little bit. A lot of clients that I have talked to have attempted to, you know, do things on their own. Use the AI, the chat GPT, all of these things. And at the end of the day, it becomes too overwhelming for them. They don't have the time. Um, Everyone knows when something is AI. It's very, very obvious. I think AI is great for certain things, but for the most part, I can't stand it because it's so obvious to me when something is AI. I can't. It really, really bothers me. I'm very old school in that sense. I come from corporate background, and that's just kind of how I am. So besides, like you said, because this is an oversaturated market now, one, I will say there's so many people who are opening up practices or deciding to go on their own who really shouldn't be doing that. I think there are steps that you should be taking before going that route. And that's just my personal opinion because, like I said, I'm so involved in this industry and I see it all the time. And there's just a lot of providers or injectors who really should not be injecting, and you need to be taking the right steps and courses in order to do that. But going back to strategy, there's a lot of things that I discuss and I have discussed in past presentations, that there's more than just social media. Social media is a portion. It's just a portion of the pie, right? The other parts and the parts that really, really work, besides word of mouth, is one of the things that I do is we look at the location, right? So let's say I have a client in Annapolis. She was struggling to, get people in the door and to get patients in her seat. So what did we do? We said, okay, let's go out into the world of Annapolis And let's go see who you can collaborate with. Again, this is old school. This is like going door to door and you're putting yourself out there and you're showing up in other areas. So, besides the social media portion of it and the branding and all of this other stuff, you really have to work very hard to look at the entire pie and put yourself out there as a provider. And that's how we started with Heather's Aid too. Okay. Heather's Aid, and I have all the photos and videos and all the things. We did a lot of pop-ups. Okay. Pop-ups and collaborating with other local and small businesses is extremely important. You get double the exposure that you would if you were just on socials, especially because today it's so overly saturated. You still have to go out there and show up. There is so much more that you can do besides social media and that you should be doing, especially as a new provider or not even new provider. You know, even if you've been in this space for a while, you have to show up now more than ever because it's overly saturated. You have to be involved with your community. You can't just post on Instagram anymore. You really have to go that extra mile. So that is discussed with the client. We really focus on community, building that community, showing up and collaborating with other business owners. And then also another big thing that I talk about is your reps, using your reps to your advantage. They're there for a reason. They have so many tools, and they can also assist you and help you get get exposure, whether it be with other providers and building your community that way. Because there's been a lot of instances where I know like one injector will be like, with one of her patients will be like, so I can't do that treatment because I don't specialize in that, but this other injector does, and I highly recommend her. So that's another, another way to do it. Again, the strategy is much more than social media and branding. It's way bigger than that, and community is a very, very big part of that.
How do you instruct or guide the storytelling behind those partnerships? Because I really like what you said. I have clients who, before they came to work with us for paid ads acquisition, they grew organically through, I mean, through effective, unique content like what you do and what you specialize in, but also like these in-person events. I've had clients who would just like you said, put themselves out there, like
Yes.
a lot, right? And most people, I think, want shortcuts. They want an easy route. I don't think there's any shortcuts.
There are no shortcuts. There are no
Right.
shortcuts. And I am very, I'm very black and white, especially when it comes to my clients. I tell them, you're not going to get this magical outcome. You're not going to be viral overnight. And viral, which
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the being viral thing and wanting to be viral.
I hate it so much. And I tell all of my clients, do not focus on that. Okay. Anyone in this space, like going viral means nothing. Okay. And I can attest to that. One of my videos on one of my reels, personal social media went viral. What does that do for me? Nothing. It doesn't do anything. You're not
Feeds the ego.
yet, but it does absolutely nothing. So people are so focused on like getting their follower count up and to get the likes. That does not translate to having patients coming in, sitting in your seat, and then coming back again. It does not. What you want to build is a following of real people who want to get to know you, who want to learn about your practice, who want to come back. That's who you want in your seat. You don't want some random whatever person. I think this comes from like back, a couple years ago. Everyone thought going viral meant you're going to be famous, you're going to be rich, you're going to have a lot of money, you're going to have all these people who are obsessed with you. No, You have to build slowly. I tell all of my clients where we really, start gauging and start seeing things. It takes about 6 months of us working together to really see what's working and what isn't working. Again, we go through that process within the 6 months, but that's where you really see results is in, 6 months of building, 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 doing the things that we discussed in our strategy and seeing if that really worked. And it typically does because we're very specific, to the person or the practice. But yeah, going viral does absolutely nothing. People, providers, injectors, need to stop focusing on that. If you go viral, great. But is that going to bring 10, 20 people in? Most likely not. Um, so we need to stop focusing on that and start mostly focusing on, putting out good quality content. I always say your social media for a provider is your resume. This is your resume. This is what people are looking at to see if they even want to come see you or not. I want to see your work. This is medical. A lot of people, especially if they've never had any treatments done, they are terrified. And if I go on your social media, if I'm someone who has never gotten any Botox, filler, lasers, whatever done, and I'm looking at your socials and you're jumping up and down and you are singing and doing crazy things and there's no work, I don't see any before and afters, I don't see any educational posts. But then I go to another providers who has clean, thoughtful content, who is showcasing their before and after. Sure, they have a little bit of their personality there, but they're really being mindful and thoughtful about what they're showcasing. I'm probably going to feel more comfortable going to this person's versus the person who is just trying to go viral. Don't you think? Wouldn't you feel the same way?
Right, right. Yeah, it's less of a popularity contest and more so just building one and building local, a little bit more of a local authority, building trust through like local social proof, case studies, stuff like that. Yeah,
Yes.
those things are becoming so much more important these days because I just think, like I said, people are so overloaded with information and I think we always lean to ease our minds with entertainment, and I think if you can tie in some entertainment that's unique to your brand, I think that's good.
Yes.
But a lot of times, I do think people nowadays they appreciate more authentic storytelling. They appreciate more just getting to know the provider because that helps them to transition from the provider to partner relationship. And people buy from people they like. People buy from people they trust, right? People buy from people that get them results. Back to the 101, back to the basics. So I think what you're saying here is that we're coming. Maybe the pendulum is swinging back, where we're coming back to those basics, right? Where it's like we're trying to get through the clutter of social media and find people and that we're going to trust because people buy products from brands, but people buy services from people, right? And that's your job has been to make sure that you help to highlight your clients, the people behind these brands, so they can start building relationships digitally and in the flesh with their prospective and existing patients.
Correct. Exactly. Trust is the number one thing, It's especially in this space. This is, again, a lot of these treatments, people are terrified. They want to feel comfortable. They want to feel like they can trust you. They want to feel like you're not going to mess their face up because, if you're showing up as trying to be viral or doing all these crazy things, I'm not going to feel that comfortable or trust that you're really going to do things right to me or my face or body parts or whatnot. So trust is the number one thing. That's why you have to be very thoughtful about what you put out there. And I'm not saying, be boring. I'm not saying that. A lot of my clients, one of my clients, Dr. George from ProMD, we sprinkle in some funnier content. Again, keyword here is sprinkle in. His entire page is not funny content because he is a medical provider. But we sprinkle that in to show his personality and his funnier side. Um, and people really, really love that. And so, you just have to focus on building that trust. Very, very important.
What should injectors and providers focus on in 2026 in summary of this conversation? I know there's a lot of things that can move the needle. I always tell people you're either going to invest your time, you're going to invest money, or you are going to invest both. And, there's things that are going to move the needle a little bit differently and get you different types of returns. So, what would you say for, especially around content? Like, what would you say? Because there's now we're like you said, like we talked about, the content isn't just it's transcending like the TikTok style, right? It's we're talking about like we talked about maybe creating stories with local businesses, right? We're talking about personal stories, stuff like that. So where should our the injectors focus in 2026 so they can stand out more?
Um, I would say number one is patient education. That has and will always be number one. You know, Instead of focusing on other things, focus on educating your patients. And secondly, like we discussed, is the storytelling and collaborating with your community. So figure out a way to collaborate with other local businesses and kind of tell that story. Whatever that looks like for you, there's many ways that you can do that, but definitely show up in your community. I feel like that's going to be way more impactful and resonate with so many more people than trying to do a trendy video. Because community is a big deal, especially in 2026. The way the world is, we feel like everything is falling apart, and you want to build a sense of community. So I feel like that is probably going to be my number one thing for 2026 is patient education and really um, building your community.
Yeah, bringing people together.
Yes. Yeah.
Where can people find you if they like to connect with you, network with you, work with you, all that good stuff?
You can find me at Instagram, NAVA Media House, or website, same thing, navamediahouse.com. If not, just look me up, Vanessa Navarro. You will find me there.
Let's get into a couple of fun questions
Oh,
to to
God.
to uh,
Questions. Okay.
to close this out. What is your? We got to. I love throwing people off here. What is your favorite junk food, Vanessa?
Junk food. Oh, God. Junk food. What is my favorite junk food?
I like work. I like the fact that when we're working health and wellness and aesthetics, everybody's got their vices. So we need a
Um, I guess pizza.
pizza.
Yeah. No, no, no. Is sushi a junk food? Because that would be
I don't think so.
okay. Well, then I guess
It
pizza.
needs to be like something like Burger King or you know.
I refuse to eat at fast food. I have too much health anxiety for that. You will not. Pizza is where you'll catch me eating pizza.
What is something that you know now um that you didn't 5 years ago that would have that you think would have propelled you forward both personally and professionally?
I wish I would have taken the leap earlier. So I feel like if I'm not gonna say I feel like if I had started like because I did this on the side for many years. So if I had just really thrown myself in 5 years ago, we would be way bigger now, let me tell you. But it is what it is, you know?
That's awesome. Uh, Vanessa, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it, guys. If you haven't had a chance to already, check out Vanessa. She's got some really awesome, great stuff and great case studies within our space. And I appreciate you coming on the show today.